But let's talk about Brian Flores, because this one not only shocked me, it kind of pissed me off, to be completely honest with you. Because Brian Flores is a guy who I have loved. Anybody who's watched any show where I've talked about the Miami Dolphins knows I love Brian Flores. One of my favorite coaches in the league. And it's a good point by Grady there in the comments. He's the only coach as a Patriots fan, as Grady's a Patriots fan, that struck fear into him. And you know why that is? Because against Bill Belichick, who some, not me, but some consider the greatest coach in the history of the National Football League. Bill Belichick, he's got 6 rings on his finger as a head coach and 8 rings on his finger as an assistant/head coach. Brian Flores went 4-2 against Bill Belichick. Matter of fact, one of those wins was monumental because it was the end of the 2019 season. The Dolphins had gotten kind of hot at the end of the year. They weren't going to make the playoffs, but they got hot at the end of the season. They traveled to Foxborough in the last game of the regular season against Tom Brady, who was still a New England Patriot. And the Patriots had to win that game in order to clinch the 2 seed, and at that time, a first-round bye. And the Dolphins won it. They won the game. So that's the guy that the Dolphins fired. Before I go into really the logistics of my main argument, can I don't know, can I throw out what Brian Flores has accomplished with the Dolphins in the last few years? So they went 5-11 in 2019. They got off to a horrendous start that year, but they finished well. They won, I think, like 4 of their last 6 games to close out the regular season. So it was like, okay, there's something to build off of. It's a young team. It's a rebuilding organization. Let's give it time. We come into 2020. And the Dolphins go 10-6. More on that in a second. This year, they started 1-7, and it wasn't looking good. But what did they do? They won 8 of their last 9 games to close out the season. By the way, you might be wondering, the last 2 years, which they did have a winning record. People are like, oh, well, he missed the playoffs. You want to know whose quarterbacks were? Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's on his 9th team. Josh Rosen, who's on his 5th team in 4 years. Tua, who we've all acknowledged by this point is not a franchise quarterback. As a matter of fact, I'm not even sure he's a starter. And Jacoby Brissett, who's been on 3 teams as a starter and a backup. May I remind you that the Miami Dolphins were one of the best defenses in football over the last 2 years. And twice a year, they had to go against, I don't know, that Belichick guy in New England and that Josh Allen guy in New York with the Buffalo Bills. Had to play them 4 times a year. Back-to-back winning seasons. With a good roster, not a great one. Not even close to that of their rival, the Buffalo Bills. And Brian Flores lost his job today. People are not going to want to hear this. But I don't care because it's true. If Brian Flores was white, he would still be the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, period. We know how this works with black coaches in the NFL. I talked about this at length when people were suggesting Mike Tomlin might take the USC job. I was like, what? No, he won't. He's not leaving the Pittsburgh Steelers. And by the way, Mike Tomlin, 15 straight years with a winning record, yet people seem to put him on the hot seat every year. Wonder why that is. But with Brian Flores, again, the nothing that he's had at the quarterback position, yet he's had back-to-back winning seasons. This reeks of the same stench that came from the Detroit Lions when they fired Jim Caldwell. Remember Jim Caldwell? Same Jim Caldwell who coached in the Super Bowl against the New Orleans Saints as the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. I get it, he had Peyton Manning, and I'll give you that. Peyton Manning was one of the 3 greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. I got you. Jim Caldwell did coach in the Super Bowl. Okay, so he's hired by the Detroit Lions in 2014. They go 11-5 and should have won a playoff game. They made the playoffs, went 11-5, should have beaten the Dallas Cowboys. They outplayed them, but Tony Romo made a couple clutch plays late that Matthew Stafford couldn't make. Shocker. 2015, they got off to a 1-7 start. Sounds similar to Brian Flores. 1-7 start. But what do? They win 6 of their last 8 games to close out the regular season, so they got momentum going into 2016. 2016, they go 9-7 and make the playoffs despite the fact that Matthew Stafford, and we saw what happened yesterday, came apart in the last 4 games of the season, and Detroit still made the playoffs. In 2017, same record, 9-7, but barely missed out in the playoffs. Jim Caldwell then lost his job. Jim Caldwell won 36 games as the Detroit Lions head coach in 4 years. And he had a 56% winning percentage. You want to know what the Lions coaches since have done? Winning percentage, Jim Caldwell won 56% of his games. Other Lions coaches since, 26%. Jim Caldwell won 36 games in 4 years. In the last 4 years for the Lions, with an extra game, mind you, they've won 17. Less than half. Yet Jim Caldwell cannot seem to get a job in the NFL. So, Brian Flores. I think about today. Joe Judge has done nothing with the New York Giants. As a matter of fact, a report came out from a trusted source in the Meadowlands. The players don't even like him, which I wouldn't either. He's won 30% of his games in 2 years, yet is keeping his job. Brian Flores has won 49% of his games with, again, nothing at quarterback. Yet he lost his job. I want to put the statement back up by the Miami Dolphins. Well, let's put this back up. Look at that middle part where it says, after evaluating where we are as an organization, what we need going forward to improve, I determined that key dynamics of our football organization weren't functioning at a level I want it to be, and felt it was the best decision for the Miami Dolphins. Where did you want it to be, Mr. Ross? Because you had a winning record back-to-back years. Again, can I reiterate, without a franchise quarterback. They kept the general manager, by the way. They kept the general manager, the same guy that drafted Tua over Justin Herbert. Really? But you're going to fire the coach and not the GM. This is the problem with the NFL. I should say it's the biggest problem with the NFL. Is that black coaches are given a shorter leash than white coaches. Plain and simple. Jim Caldwell in Detroit. Heck, Mike Tomlin. Every year, Mike Tomlin may get fired. Like, why? Why would you fire Mike Tomlin? 15 straight winning seasons. That's never been done before, ever. All the great coaches, the Lombardis and the Belichicks and the Andy Reids even. It's never been done before. Mike Tomlin's the only guy to have 15 straight winning seasons. And with a limited quarterback, is back in the playoffs for a second consecutive season. But he's on the hot seat every year. And Brian Flores, after winning 8 of his final 9 games with Tua, got fired. I will be very interested to see where the Miami Dolphins go with their next hire. Very interested. And another report, I believe it was by Adam Schefter, said that his name, Brian Flores' name, is going to be a very hot name in other coaching searches. Yeah, you think? You think? He turned the Miami Dolphins defense into a top 10 defense. He had, again, can I name the quarterbacks one more time? Ryan Fitzpatrick, Josh Rosen, Tua Tagovailoa, and Jacoby Brissett. That was his quarterbacks. And he's still a back-to-back winning seasons. This is why the Dolphins are a bad organization. As Grady pointed out in the comments there, it's safe to say, let's go and put them in with the Jets. Because since Marino, they've done nothing. Dan Marino kind of kept that franchise afloat. After he retired, what have they done? They had Jason Taylor, who was a monster, and Zach Thomas. They didn't win any games. So, this, Lord, I could go further on this, but I'll hold off. But my final argument and my main point It's just as simple. Black coaches are given a shorter leash than white coaches. Why does Adam Gase keep getting opportunity after opportunity? Why on earth is Bill O'Brien getting interviews? Bill O'Brien, the same guy that traded DeAndre Hopkins for a second-round pick and a backup running back. He's getting interviews? Stop. It's a joke. It is an absolute joke. And like I said, sometimes in sports, you'll see stories like it'll flash across your phone like, wow, I didn't see that coming. I saw this and it genuinely made me mad. Because Brian Flores is a culture builder. That's what you want from a head coach. Establish an identity and have the players in that locker room respect you and win games. That's what he did. So what do you suggest that you need from here? What do you suggest you need from here? Going in a different direction. What type of direction? Stephen Ross? I'll leave it at that. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.